Bird high-speed trains
Yes.
coming to Toronto. When do you think these will be in place?
Well, the city's plan is a 10-year plan for 120 kilometers. It could do it in 10 years. So some things have already been approved, like, for example, extending this banana subway to York University and Highway 7. That's going to happen. Or getting the new train from Union Station to the airport. That is really being approved. It's going to be happening in time for the Pan American Games of 2015. However, what happens is that some of the lines have been shortened, if you will. There was, for example, the Eglinton line, supposed to go from Kennedy subway station Scarborough, because Scarborough's got a real problem with transit. It was supposed to go Kennedy subway station to the Don Valley as a elevated European-style train. Then it goes underground from Laird Drive, which is on the Don Valley, all the way to Keele, along Eglinton. And then from Keele, it's supposed to go to the airport. Okay, that's been approved. But the Premier McGuinty took away the section from Jane to the airport. So if you're from Scarborough, you won't be able to go to the airport. You go up to Jane. As mayor, I want to make sure that that gets built by convincing the provincial and federal government to put in money. That is essential, by the way, because of all the taxes that people pay in Toronto, 8% go to the city, 92% go to the provincial and federal government. And this is kind of the largest city. I think Canadian government has a responsibility to invest some of the money back. And this is the provincial capital of Ontario. The province of Ontario has to also invest. A mayor which raises this issue is able to argue, gently, if you will, with our colleagues in provincial and federal government, but at the same time, make sure that people are aware that this is happening. And as Torontonians, we must insist that the money gets found, because it costs us more not to do it than doing it. That's what the kind of mayor that Joe Pantalone wants to be.
Now, would Mayor Joe Pantalone be taxing Torontonians more, or would there be some kind of tax breaks coming to Torontonians?
Well, I'd like to give some tax breaks. For example, I want to get rid of this $60 personal vehicle tax over 4 or 5 years, a little bit at a time. Because Torontonians feel that this is an unfair tax. Why should they have to pay it if you live in Scarborough, when if you live in Markham, you don't?
Right.
And I want to, at the end of the day, taxation only works when people see the reason for it and they think it's fair. So I think that's a problem, and that needs to be done. Also, for senior citizens who happen to live in their own home, I want to, if they make less than $50,000 as a household, then I want to freeze their taxes, property tax, for the next 4 years. Because you know what? It's very stressful for senior citizens. Their pensions barely go up, and yet the expense. I want to give them be sure that at least they won't be able to be evicted by the changing in their neighborhood, which increases their property tax, be frozen. And I believe that in terms of generally, taxes are needed. That's how we get all city services, which serve us all, whether it's police officers or the library or the kids' playground. However, we have to increase only up to inflation and no more. I think it's possible to do that, by the way, because something like a quarter, 25% of the people who work for the City of Toronto are eligible to retire in 5 years. That means that there's going to be, we're going to hire new people to take their place because the services need to be provided. But if you hire people who know technologies, the internet, computers and all that, their productivity can be increased with the same workforce or even less of a workforce. That's what you get the savings through efficiency.
So talking about efficiency and saving a lot of stuff, you're also very keen on being green,
yes.
Toronto being green, and Toronto needs to be green. This being the largest city in Canada, does add to a lot of the pollution, or does add to a lot of the anti-green efforts here in Canada. So what are some of your green proposals? Well,
some of my green proposals are as basic as planting trees, because I became tree advocate 10 years ago. 10 years ago, we were only planting 9,500 trees in Toronto. This year, because of the program that I started and championed, we're planting 109,000. And trees are, as Al Gore said, former vice president, there is a technology which takes pollution out of the air, carbon dioxide in this case, and puts oxygen. It's called a tree. Yeah. And you know what? It doesn't cost that much. I think that's going to clean the air, because all of us breathe the air. It's going to cool the city, because in the summertime it's a problem, and be also good. Also, I believe in green jobs. So I was the champion of the green roofs bylaw. Toronto is 20% of the city is roofs. They have been a problem historically. where the green drops while all of a sudden we're turning the city into a green place, which is better for the butterflies as well as retention water and cooling down the city, which saves us money in terms of air conditioning needs and saves us money in terms of the not polluting the world, you know, which we do if you have to do energy creation in order to air condition. Also, I'm past chair of the city roundtable on the environment. And the wind turbine, for example, at Exhibition Place, which I happen to wear here, is, became the poster child of renewable energy in this city and province. It was I who had that built there. And I think that the future is green because it has to be. Look at the natural disasters that occur, like Pakistan. An area the size of Italy gets flooded. You know, it's huge. That's because of what we're doing here and everywhere else is creating real problems here and everywhere else. And I want to be a green mayor because I've been the mayor of Green in Toronto, deputy mayor of Green, through the roundtable on the environment that I've been chairing the last few years. The mayor of Los Angeles actually said in Copenhagen last year, because he was asked, what is the greenest city in the world, you know, for programs? And he says, you have to ask, it's the city of Toronto. Well, you know, people may criticize Mayor Miller or me or other for things, but, you know, but we've done an amazing job there and want to do more, which will create jobs as well as, you know, being good to Mother Nature. That's part of my program, to do more in that area.
Very quickly, there's been a lot of talk about new immigrants coming to Canada, especially new immigrants coming to Toronto, whether they be refugees or just legitimate immigrants coming into the country or into the city.
Right.
There's been discussions amongst various mayoral candidates, and I haven't had a chance to hear what your opinion is on that. How would you look at more and more immigrants and thousands coming to Toronto? Yeah.
Well, there's a two-part answer to that question. First of all, we all are immigrants in this country and this city, except perhaps for the First Nations. You know? Right. And we would not have the amazing city and prosperity that we have without all of us. And I say all of us because I'm an immigrant myself. You know? So therefore, I think that it adds so much wealth, both in terms of economically and socially, our diversity. We are the world. You know, imagine Toronto without immigrants, either first generation, second generation, or third generation. We would not be anything to speak of. So the contribution is enormous. Secondly, the issue of immigration, and obviously the Tamil ship that came to Vancouver comes to mind, is obviously a federal responsibility. It's not a city one, but I hope that the federal government applies a fairness to it all. You know, when you have 50 children